Sister Margaret sat in her wheelchair near the chapel window. The morning sun came through the colored glass and made pretty patterns on the floor. She was 78 years old now. Her hair was white under her black veil. Her hands rested on her lap, and she looked at them with sad eyes. These hands had played piano for more than 60 years. They had made beautiful music in this very chapel, but now they looked old and twisted. The fingers were bent from arthritis. They hurt most days, especially when it rained. 3 months ago, Mother Superior had made a decision. She called Sister Margaret to her office after morning prayers. The office was small and dark. There was a big wooden desk and 2 chairs. Pictures of saints hung on the walls. Sister Margaret, Mother Superior had said. Her voice was firm and cold. You cannot play piano anymore. Your hands are too weak. The other sisters need to focus on their prayers, not worry about wrong notes. Sister Margaret had felt her heart break a little that day. She had asked quietly, "But Mother Superior, I can still play. My hands may look bad, but they still remember the music." "No," Mother Superior had said. She stood up from her desk. "I have decided. Sister Anne will play piano now. She is young and her hands are strong. You must accept God's will." That was 3 months ago. Since then, Sister Margaret had not touched the piano keys. The old brown piano sat in the corner of the chapel like a sleeping giant. During morning prayers, she would look at it and remember. She remembered when she first came to the convent. She was only 18 then. Her name was Mary back then, before she became Sister Margaret. She had grown up in a small town where her father worked at the bank. Her mother had died when Mary was 12. Her father was a quiet man who loved music. Every evening after dinner, Mary would sit at their old piano. Her father would listen from his chair near the fireplace. He would close his eyes and smile when she played. The music seemed to take away his sadness about losing his wife. When Mary told her father she wanted to become a nun, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "If that is what God wants for you, then you must go. But promise me you will keep playing piano. Music is God's gift to you." Mary had promised. She kept that promise for 60 years. When she first arrived at the convent, the other nuns were amazed by her playing. The old piano in the chapel had been silent for years. The nun who used to play had died, and no one else knew how. Sister Margaret made that old piano sing again. During morning prayers, her music filled the chapel, like sunshine. During evening prayers, her soft melodies helped the sisters feel peaceful. When people from town came to visit, they would sit quietly and listen to her play. Over the years, Sister Margaret learned hundreds of songs. She could play hymns that made people think of heaven. She could play gentle songs that made people feel calm. She could play joyful songs that made everyone want to dance, though of course nuns did not dance in chapel. The piano became her best friend. When she felt sad, she would play sad songs until she felt better. When she felt happy, she would play bright, cheerful songs. When she missed her father, who had died many years ago, she would play the songs he had loved best. But arthritis came slowly, like a thief in the night. First, her fingers felt stiff in the morning. Then they began to hurt after playing for a long time. The pain got worse each year. Her fingers became bent and twisted. Still, she kept playing. The music was still beautiful, even if her hands looked ugly. The other sisters told her the music was as lovely as ever. Visitors to the chapel still sat quietly and listened with peaceful faces. But Mother Superior was different. She was younger than Sister Margaret and had only been Mother Superior for 5 years. She liked things to be perfect. She did not like anything that looked weak or broken. When Mother Superior looked at Sister Margaret's twisted hands, she saw only the arthritis. She did not hear the beautiful music that still came from those hands. She only saw an old nun who might make mistakes. Now Sister Margaret spent her days in the chapel, but she could only listen to Sister Anne play. Sister Anne was 25 years old. Her hands were smooth and straight. She played the notes correctly, but something was missing. The other older nuns noticed it too. Sister Catherine, who was 30, whispered to Sister Margaret one day, "Your music had something special. It touched our hearts." Sister Joan, who was 45, said quietly, Sister Anne plays the right notes, but your music made us feel closer to God. But they could not say these things too loudly. Mother Superior did not like complaints. She believed her decisions were always right. Every day, Sister Margaret sat in her wheelchair and watched Sister Anne at the piano. The young nun's fingers moved quickly over the keys. The music was fast and correct, but it felt cold. It did not warm the heart like Sister Margaret's music used to do. At night, Sister Margaret would lie in her narrow bed in the dormitory. All around her, the other sisters slept quietly. She would look at her hands in the darkness and wiggle her twisted fingers. They still moved. They still remembered where the piano keys were. Sometimes she would dream about playing piano. In her dreams, her hands were young and straight again. She would play all her favorite songs while her father listened and smiled. She would wake up from these dreams feeling happy for a moment. Then she would remember that she was not allowed to play anymore, and the sadness would come back. The chapel felt different now. During prayers, Sister Margaret would look at the piano and remember all the music it used to make. The piano looked lonely, she thought. It was probably sad, too, having only Sister Anne's cold playing instead of the warm music they used to make, together. Sister Margaret had always believed that everything happened for a reason. God had a plan even when people could not understand it. But she could not understand why God would give her arthritis in her hands. Why would he take away her gift of music when it brought so much joy to others? She tried to pray about these feelings, but the question stayed in her heart. Every morning when she woke up, every evening when she went to sleep, she wondered if she would ever play piano again. Deep inside, she believed her hands could still make beautiful music. But Mother Superior had decided, and nuns must obey. So, Sister Margaret sat quietly in her wheelchair each day, watching and listening while her heart ached for the music she was no longer allowed to make. 3 weeks had passed since Sister Margaret last touched the piano keys. Every day felt longer than the one before. She tried to keep busy with other work in the convent. She helped Sister Mary fold the clean clothes. She helped Sister Rose prepare vegetables for dinner. She read Bible stories to the youngest nuns who were still learning, but her heart was not in these tasks. Her mind always went back to the piano. She could see it from where she sat during meals in the dining hall. The piano sat quiet and still, waiting for someone to bring it to life. Sister Anne practiced every afternoon at 3 o'clock. Sister Margaret would position her wheelchair where she could watch and listen. Sister Anne's fingers moved fast across the keys. She never made mistakes. Her timing was perfect. But something was still missing. One afternoon, Sister Margaret watched Sister Anne play a hymn called Amazing Grace. It was one of Sister Margaret's favorite songs. She had played it hundreds of times over the years. She knew every note by heart. Sister Anne played all the right notes, but the song sounded flat. It had no feeling. Sister Margaret closed her eyes and remembered how she used to play that same song. She would start softly, like a whisper. Then she would build the music slowly, making it grow stronger. By the end, the whole chapel would be filled with the power of the song. That night, Sister Margaret could not sleep. She lay in her bed listening to the other sisters breathe softly in their sleep. The dormitory was very quiet. Outside, she could hear an owl calling from the old oak tree in the garden. She thought about the piano sitting alone in the chapel. It was probably cold and lonely. No one had touched it with love for weeks. Sister Anne only touched it for practice and for prayers. She did not spend time with it like a friend. Sister Margaret had an idea. It was not a good idea according to the rules, but her heart wanted to try it anyway. What if she went to the chapel? What if she just sat near the piano? She would not play it. She would just keep it company. Very quietly, Sister Margaret got out of her bed. Her wheelchair was beside her bed where it always stayed at night. She moved from the bed to the wheelchair as quietly as she could. The old chair made a small squeak, but none of the other sisters woke up. She rolled her wheelchair out of the dormitory and down the long hallway. The floors were made of stone, and her wheels made soft sounds as she moved. Small lights along the walls lit her way. The convent was peaceful and quiet at this hour. The chapel door was always open. Sister Margaret rolled her wheelchair inside and stopped near the back pews. The moonlight came through the big stained glass window and made colored shadows on the floor. The piano stood in its corner, dark and silent. Sister Margaret rolled her wheelchair closer to the piano. She stopped right beside it and looked at the keys. In the moonlight, they looked like white teeth. She remembered how they used to feel under her fingers, smooth and cool. She lifted her right hand slowly. Her twisted fingers reached toward the keys. Then she stopped. Mother Superior had said she must not play. Good nuns obeyed their Mother Superior. Sister Margaret put her hand back on her lap. But sitting near the piano felt good. It was like sitting next to an old friend. Sister Margaret could almost hear the music they used to make together. She could remember the feeling of the keys under her fingers. She could remember the joy that filled her heart when beautiful sounds came from her hands. For 20 minutes she sat there in the moonlight with the piano. Then she rolled her wheelchair back to the dormitory and went to bed. She slept better that night than she had in weeks. The next night, she went back to the chapel again. This time, she stayed a little longer. She talked quietly to the piano like it was a friend who could listen. "Hello, old friend," she whispered. "I miss making music with you. I know Sister Anne takes good care of you, but I wonder if you miss our music too." The piano sat silently, but Sister Margaret felt like it understood. On the third night, something different happened. Sister Margaret sat beside the piano as usual. She was telling the piano about her day when she heard a small sound from the hallway. Someone was coming. Quickly, she rolled her wheelchair behind the big wooden cross that stood near the altar. She waited, her heart beating fast. What if it was Mother Superior? What if she got in trouble for being in the chapel at night? The footsteps came closer. Then Sister Margaret saw who it was. Sister Catherine, the young nun who sometimes helped in the kitchen, walked into the chapel. She was carrying a small candle. She knelt down near the front pews and began to pray quietly. Sister Margaret stayed hidden behind the cross. She watched Sister Catherine pray for a long time. Finally, the young nun stood up and walked back toward the door. Sister Margaret waited until she was gone, then rolled back to the dormitory. The next night, Sister Margaret was more careful. She listened at her door before leaving the dormitory. She looked both ways before rolling down the hallway. She was extra quiet when she entered the chapel. This time, when she sat beside the piano, her hand moved almost by itself. Before she realized what she was doing, one twisted finger touched one white key. It was middle C, right in the center of the piano. The sound was perfect, pure and clear and beautiful. It rang out in the quiet chapel like a church bell. Sister Margaret held her breath, afraid someone might have heard. But no one came running. The sound faded away, and the chapel was quiet again. Sister Margaret looked at her finger, still touching the key. Her arthritis had not made the note sound bad. The key had responded to her touch just like it always had. Very carefully she pressed the key again. Again, the note was perfect, clear and strong and true. Her twisted finger had not forgotten how to make beautiful music. Sister Margaret felt tears in her eyes. Her hands were not as broken as Mother Superior thought. The music was still there, waiting inside her fingers. She wanted to play more notes. She wanted to play a whole song, but she was afraid to make too much noise. Instead, she just touched middle C one more time, listening to the beautiful sound echo in the chapel. That night, she went back to her bed with hope in her heart. Her hands could still make music. The arthritis had not stolen her gift. Maybe Mother Superior was wrong. Maybe God did not want her to stop playing after all. For the rest of the week, Sister Margaret visited the piano every night. Each time she pressed middle C and listened to its perfect sound. She began to believe that maybe, somehow, she could play again. She started to think about other keys. What would D sound like? Or E? Were they all still perfect, waiting for her touch? Her heart began to feel excited about the possibility, but she was still scared to try more than one note. What if someone heard her? What if Mother Superior found out? She could get in serious trouble. She might even be sent away from the convent. Still, every night she rolled her wheelchair to the chapel. Every night she pressed middle C and listened to its beautiful voice. And every night she thought about the hundreds of other keys waiting silently for her to bring them back to life. 2 more weeks passed, and Sister Margaret grew braver each night. The single note of middle C was not enough anymore. Her heart wanted more music. Her fingers remembered songs that needed to be played. On a quiet Tuesday night, Sister Margaret made her usual trip to the chapel. The moon was full and bright, making the colored windows glow like jewels. She rolled her wheelchair to the piano and looked at all the keys waiting in the darkness. Tonight felt different. Tonight, she would try more than one note. Very softly, she pressed middle C. Then slowly she pressed D. The 2 notes together made a gentle harmony. Her heart jumped with joy. The sound was beautiful, and her twisted fingers had made it perfectly. She tried C and E together, then C, E, and G. It was a chord she had played thousands of times before. Her fingers found the right keys without even looking. The arthritis did not stop her from making perfect music. Sister Margaret felt like crying with happiness. Her gift was not gone. It was still there, waiting inside her bent and twisted hands. Very carefully, she played a simple melody. 5 notes, going up, then 5 notes coming down. It was a scale she had learned when she was a little girl taking piano lessons. Her fingers moved slowly, but they hit every note exactly right. The sound was soft and sweet in the quiet chapel. It did not seem loud enough to wake anyone up. Sister Margaret decided to try something a little harder. She began to play Silent Night. It was a simple song that most people knew. Her right hand played the melody while her left hand played the harmony. The music floated through the chapel like a gentle prayer. Sister Margaret had played this song hundreds of Christmas mornings for the sisters. But tonight, playing it secretly in the moonlight, it felt more special than ever. Every note was perfect. Every chord was exactly where it should be. When the song ended, Sister Margaret sat quietly for a moment. She could hardly believe what had just happened. She had played a whole song without making any mistakes. Her hands worked just as well as they ever had. From that night on, Sister Margaret's secret visits to the chapel became longer. She would arrive after midnight, when she was sure all the other sisters were sleeping. She would play softly for an hour, or sometimes 2 hours before returning to her bed. She started with simple songs she remembered from her childhood. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and Mary Had a Little Lamb. These songs made her feel happy and young again. Then she tried hymns she had played during church services. Amazing Grace sounded completely different when she played it compared to when Sister Anne played it. Sister Margaret's version had feeling and warmth. Each note seemed to carry a prayer. After a week of simple songs, Sister Margaret decided to try something more difficult. She played Ave Maria, a song she had loved for many years. It required her fingers to move faster and stretch further across the keys. Her arthritis made her fingers stiff at first, but as she played, the joints seemed to loosen up. The pain went away, replaced by the pure joy of making music. By the end of the song, her hands felt young again. Night after night, Sister Margaret returned to the piano. She played songs from her memory, hundreds of pieces she had learned over 60 years of playing. Bach, Mozart, Schubert, all the great composers whose music she had studied and loved. She discovered that her memory was perfect. Even songs she had not played in years came back to her fingers easily. It was like the music had been sleeping inside her hands, waiting for her to wake it up. Some nights she played gentle lullabies that made her think of the children she had never had. Some nights she played powerful hymns that made her feel close to God. Some nights she played sad songs that helped her remember her father and other people she had loved who were gone now. The piano seemed happy to have her back. The keys felt warm under her fingers. The sounds that came from the old instrument were richer and more beautiful than they had been in years. Sister Margaret began to feel like herself again. During the day, she was just an old nun in a wheelchair, someone who needed help with many simple tasks. But at night in the chapel with the piano, she was herself, a musician whose hands could create beauty and joy. She started sleeping better. Her appetite came back. The other sisters noticed that she seemed happier during the day, though they did not know why. Sister Rose mentioned it during lunch one day. "Sister Margaret, you seem different lately. You look peaceful." Sister Margaret smiled but said nothing. How could she explain that she was breaking the rules every night? How could she tell them about the secret music that was healing her heart? One night she decided to try the most difficult piece she knew, Chopin's Minute Waltz. It was a fast, complicated piece that required both hands to move quickly and precisely. Before her arthritis, it had been one of her favorites to play. She started slowly, much slower than the piece was meant to be played. Her twisted fingers felt clumsy at first, but gradually, as her hands warmed up, they began to remember the patterns. The muscle memory was still there, buried deep in her joints and bones. By the third time through the piece, she was playing it almost at full speed. Her fingers danced across the keys like they used to do. The fast runs and difficult passages flowed out of her hands like water. When she finished, Sister Margaret had tears on her cheeks. She had just played one of the hardest pieces in her repertoire, and it had sounded beautiful. Her arthritis had not stopped her. Age had not stopped her. Even Mother Superior's rules could not stop the music that lived inside her. That night, she played until nearly dawn. Song after song poured out of her hands. Happy songs, sad songs, fast songs, slow songs. Her fingers moved like they were 20 years old again. The pain in her joints completely disappeared when she was playing. As the first light of morning began to show through the stained glass windows, Sister Margaret played one last song. It was a hymn called, "How Great Thou Art." She played it softly and slowly, like a thank you prayer to God for giving her back her music. When she finished, she sat quietly at the piano for a few more minutes. Soon the other sisters would wake up. Soon she would have to pretend again that she was just an old nun who could not play piano anymore. But now she had a secret that made her strong. Every night, she could return to this chapel and be herself again. Every night she could make the music that lived in her heart. Every night she could remember that some gifts from God are too powerful to be taken away by arthritis or rules, or even time itself. Sister Margaret rolled her wheelchair back to the dormitory as quietly as she could. She got back into her narrow bed just as the first bell rang for morning prayers. Around her, the other sisters began to wake up and start their day. None of them knew that while they had been sleeping, beautiful music had been filling their chapel. None of them knew that the old nun they felt sorry for was really a musician whose gift burned as bright as ever. But Sister Margaret knew, and for now, that was enough. Sister Catherine could not sleep. This had been happening for 2 weeks now. Every night she would lie in her narrow bed and listen to the other sisters breathing softly around her. But sleep would not come to her eyes. She was the youngest nun in the convent at 25 years old. She had only been there for 3 years. Sometimes she still felt like she did not belong with the older, wiser sisters. Sometimes she missed her old life in the city, where she had worked as a teacher before God called her to the convent. On this particular night, Sister Catherine decided to get up and walk around. Maybe moving would help her feel tired enough to sleep. She put on her slippers and robe and walked quietly out of the dormitory. The hallways were dark except for small lights along the walls. Her footsteps made soft sounds on the stone floor. She walked toward the kitchen thinking maybe some warm milk would help her sleep. But as she walked past the chapel, she heard something strange. It sounded like music, very soft, gentle music coming from inside the chapel. Sister Catherine stopped, walking, and listened more carefully. Yes, it was definitely piano music, but who could be playing at this hour? It was past midnight. All the sisters should be sleeping. Maybe Sister Anne was practicing late. But that did not make sense. Sister Anne always practiced in the afternoon. She was always in bed by 9 o'clock. Sister Catherine walked closer to the chapel door. The music was beautiful. It sounded like a hymn, but she could not recognize which one. The person playing had a gentle touch that made each note sound perfect. Very quietly, Sister Catherine looked around the edge of the chapel door. What she saw made her catch her breath in surprise. There, at the piano, sat Sister Margaret. The old nun was in her wheelchair, her twisted hands moving across the keys with grace and skill. The moonlight from the big stained glass window made her white hair glow like silver. Sister Catherine had never heard piano music this beautiful before. Sister Anne played correctly, but this was different. This music seemed to come from somewhere, deep in Sister Margaret's heart. Each note carried feeling and meaning. Sister Margaret was playing a song that Sister Catherine recognized now. It was "Be Still My Soul," a hymn they sometimes sang during evening prayers. But when Sister Margaret played it, the song sounded like a conversation with God. Sister Catherine stood frozen in the doorway. She knew she should not be watching this. Sister Margaret was breaking the rules. Mother Superior had forbidden her to play piano 3 months ago. If someone found out, Sister Margaret could get in serious trouble, but the music was too beautiful to stop listening to. Sister Catherine had never heard anything like it. The old piano, which sounded ordinary when Sister Anne played it, now sounded like it was singing. Sister Margaret finished "Be Still, My Soul," and immediately started another song. This one was faster and more cheerful. Sister Catherine thought it might be a song by Bach, but she was not sure. She did not know much about classical music. What she did know was that Sister Margaret's twisted, arthritic hands were making perfect music. Every note was exactly right. Every chord was beautiful. The arthritis that Mother Superior worried about did not seem to affect Sister Margaret's playing at all. Sister Catherine felt tears in her eyes. She had always felt sorry for Sister Margaret, sitting in her wheelchair during prayers watching Sister Anne play the piano that used to be hers. Now she realized that Sister Margaret did not need anyone to feel sorry for her. The old nun played for another 30 minutes. She played hymns and classical pieces and some songs that Sister Catherine had never heard before. Each piece was more beautiful than the last. Finally, Sister Margaret played one last soft, gentle song. When she finished, she sat quietly at the piano for a few minutes, just looking at the keys in the moonlight. Sister Catherine knew she should leave before Sister Margaret saw her. This was clearly a private moment between the old nun and her beloved piano. She started to step back from the doorway, but her foot made a small sound on the stone floor. Sister Margaret turned around quickly, her eyes wide with fear. "Who is there?" Sister Margaret whispered. Sister Catherine knew there was no point in hiding now. She stepped into the chapel, her hands folded in front of her. "It is just me, Sister Margaret." "Sister Catherine." Sister Margaret's face went pale. Her hands began to shake. "Please do not tell Mother Superior. Please. I know I am breaking the rules, but I needed to play, just for a little while." Sister Catherine walked closer to the piano. "Sister Margaret, that was the most beautiful music I have ever heard in my life. You are not angry with me?" "Angry?" Sister Catherine sat down on the front pew. "How could I be angry? You just gave me a gift. I could not sleep, and your music made me feel peaceful for the first time in weeks." Sister Margaret still looked worried. "But Mother Superior said I must not play anymore. She said my hands are too weak, too damaged." Sister Catherine looked at the old nun's twisted fingers. "Your hands may look different now, but the music that comes from them is perfect, more than perfect. It touches the heart." "You really think so?" "I know so. When you played 'Be Still My Soul,' I felt closer to God than I have in months. Your music is a prayer, Sister Margaret. It is a gift from God." Sister Margaret wiped tears from her eyes. "I miss playing so much. During the day I sit and watch Sister Anne, and my heart breaks a little more each time. Her playing is correct, but it has no soul." "How long have you been coming here at night?" "About a month now. At first, I just sat with the piano to keep it company. Then I touched one key just to hear the sound. Before I knew it, I was playing whole songs again." Sister Catherine smiled. "And your arthritis? Does it hurt when you play?" "It hurts during the day, but when I play music, the pain goes away completely." It is like the music heals my hands." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Sister Catherine looked at Sister Margaret sitting at the piano, and she made a decision. "Sister Margaret, I want you to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you will not stop these night visits. Your music is too beautiful to be hidden away. Even if no one else ever hears it, you need to keep playing." Sister Margaret looked surprised. "But what if someone finds out? What if Mother Superior discovers what I am doing?" "Then we will deal with that when it happens. But for now, this is between you, me, and God. And I think God wants you to keep making this beautiful music." Sister Catherine stood up from the pew. "I should let you finish your practice and get back to bed." "But Sister Margaret..." "Thank you. This was exactly what my heart needed tonight." As Sister Catherine walked toward the door, Sister Margaret called softly after her. "Sister Catherine, would you like to come back tomorrow night? You could sit and listen if you want. It gets lonely, playing by myself all the time." Sister Catherine turned back and smiled. "I would love that. What time do you usually come here?" "Around midnight, when I am sure everyone is sleeping." "Then I will see you tomorrow at midnight." Sister Catherine left the chapel and walked back to her dormitory. For the first time in weeks, she felt sleepy and peaceful. As she got back into her bed, she could still hear the echo of Sister Margaret's beautiful music in her mind. The next night, Sister Catherine was awake at 11:30, waiting for midnight to come. She was excited to hear more of Sister Margaret's secret concerts. She had spent all day thinking about the beautiful music and wondering what songs the old nun would play tonight. At exactly midnight, she got up and walked quietly to the chapel. Sister Margaret was already there, sitting at the piano in the moonlight. "You came," Sister Margaret whispered with a smile. "I promised I would. What are you going to play tonight? What would you like to hear?" Sister Catherine thought for a moment. "Something that will help me understand why God brought us both to this place." Sister Margaret smiled and placed her twisted fingers on the keys. She began to play a hymn called "God Moves in Mysterious Ways." The music filled the chapel with warmth and hope and joy. Sister Catherine closed her eyes and listened. She knew that this was the beginning of something important. She did not know what would happen next, but she knew that Sister Margaret's music was too precious to keep secret forever. Sister Catherine kept her promise. She did not tell anyone about Sister Margaret's midnight concerts, but it was hard to keep such a wonderful secret to herself. Every day, she watched the old nun sitting quietly in her wheelchair during meals and prayers. Sister Catherine wanted to tell everyone how amazing Sister Margaret really was. For 2 weeks, Sister Catherine joined Sister Margaret in the chapel every night at midnight. She would sit on the front pew and listen to the most beautiful music she had ever heard. Sister Margaret played different songs each night, hymns, classical pieces, and sometimes songs she made up herself. During these concerts, Sister Catherine learned things about Sister Margaret that she had never known before. The old nun told stories about her life before she became a sister. She talked about her father, who had loved music. She talked about the day she first played piano in this very chapel, more than 40 years ago. "I was so nervous that day," Sister Margaret whispered one night after playing a gentle lullaby. "The other sisters were all watching me. I was afraid I would make mistakes." "Did you?" Sister Catherine asked. "No, but my hands were shaking so much I thought I would. Then I started to play, and the music took over. My nervousness went away, and I just felt joy." "Like you do now when you play?" "Exactly like now. Music has always been my way of talking to God." Sister Catherine understood. When she listened to Sister Margaret play, she felt like she was listening to prayers being sung by the piano itself. One night, something unexpected happened. Sister Catherine and Sister Margaret were in the chapel as usual. Sister Margaret was playing a beautiful piece by Chopin when they heard footsteps in the hallway. Both women froze. Sister Margaret stopped playing and looked at Sister Catherine with frightened eyes. The footsteps were getting closer to the chapel. "Quick," Sister Catherine whispered. "Hide behind the altar." Sister Margaret rolled her wheelchair as quietly as she could to the back of the chapel. Sister Catherine stayed on the pew, pretending to pray. A figure appeared in the chapel doorway. It was Sister Joan, who was 45 years old and worked in the convent library. She looked around the chapel and saw Sister Catherine. "Sister Catherine, what are you doing here so late?" Sister Catherine's heart was beating fast. "I could not sleep. I came to pray." Sister Joan walked into the chapel and sat down on the pew next to Sister Catherine. "I could not sleep either. But as I was walking in the hallway, I thought I heard piano music. Did you hear anything?" Sister Catherine did not want to lie, but she also did not want to get Sister Margaret in trouble. "Sometimes the wind makes the old building creak and moan. Maybe that is what you heard." Sister Joan looked toward the piano. "Maybe, but it sounded so much like music. Beautiful music." Behind the altar, Sister Margaret held her breath and prayed that Sister Joan would not discover her. Sister Joan and Sister Catherine sat together in the quiet chapel for about 10 minutes. Finally, Sister Joan stood up. "I should try to get some sleep. Good night, Sister Catherine." "Good night, Sister Joan." After Sister Joan left, Sister Margaret rolled her wheelchair back to the piano. Her hands were still shaking from fear. "That was too close," she whispered. "Maybe I should stop these visits. It is too dangerous." But Sister Catherine had been thinking. Sister Joan said the music sounded beautiful. She did not seem angry about it. Maybe she would understand. "Oh no, we cannot tell anyone else. Mother Superior would find out." "Not necessarily. Sister Joan is kind. She might want to help keep the secret." Sister Margaret was not sure about this idea. For the next 3 nights she came to the chapel alone. Sister Catherine stayed in her bed, thinking about whether they should trust Sister Joan. On the 4th night, Sister Catherine made a decision. She got up at midnight and went to the chapel as usual. Sister Margaret was there, playing softly. "I have been thinking about Sister Joan," Sister Catherine said. "I think we should tell her the truth." "What? If she tells Mother Superior? What if she does not? What if she becomes our friend instead? You said yourself that playing alone is lonely. Maybe God sent Sister Joan to find us that night." Sister Margaret thought about this. She did feel lonely playing by herself when Sister Catherine was not there. And Sister Joan had seemed more curious than angry when she heard the music. "If we tell her and she gets us in trouble, then we will accept whatever happens. But I have a feeling that Sister Joan has a good heart." The next night, Sister Catherine went to Sister Joan's bed in the dormitory. Very quietly, she woke up the older nun. "Sister Joan," she whispered, "can you come with me? I have something to show you." Sister Joan was confused, but she got up and followed Sister Catherine to the chapel. When they arrived, Sister Margaret was at the piano playing a hymn called "Great is Thy Faithfulness." Sister Joan stopped walking when she heard the music. Her eyes went wide with surprise. "Sister Margaret, you are playing piano?" Sister Margaret stopped playing and turned around. She looked terrified. "Please do not tell Mother Superior. Please." Sister Joan walked closer to the piano. She looked at Sister Margaret's twisted hands, then at the piano keys. "But Mother Superior said your arthritis was too bad. She said you could not play anymore." "My hands do hurt during the day," Sister Margaret said quietly. "But when I play music, they feel strong again. The arthritis does not stop me from making music." "How long have you been doing this?" Sister Catherine answered. "About 6 weeks now. I discovered her by accident a few weeks ago." Sister Joan sat down on a pew and looked at both women. "Play something else," she said to Sister Margaret. "What?" "Play another song. I want to hear more." Sister Margaret looked at Sister Catherine, who nodded encouragingly. Sister Margaret turned back to the piano and began to play "Amazing Grace." She played it slowly and with deep feeling, making each note sound like a prayer. When she finished, Sister Joan had tears in her eyes. "Sister Margaret, that was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. Your music has something that Sister Anne's does not have. It has soul." "You are not angry?" "Angry? Why would I be angry?" You just gave me a gift. This is how music should sound in our chapel." Sister Catherine smiled. She had been right about Sister Joan. From that night on, 3 women met in the chapel at midnight. Sister Joan would sit with Sister Catherine on the front pew, and they would listen to Sister Margaret's concerts together. Sister Joan had a request after the first week. "Sister Margaret, do you know any Christmas songs? I know it is only October, but hearing Christmas music always makes me happy." Sister Margaret played Silent Night and O Holy Night and the First Noel. Sister Joan and Sister Catherine hummed along quietly, being careful not to make too much noise. 2 weeks later, something else happened. Sister Mary, who was 38 and worked in the kitchen, could not sleep one night. She was walking in the hallway when she heard soft singing coming from the chapel. She followed the sound and discovered the 3 women. Sister Margaret was playing Ave Maria, while Sister Catherine and Sister Joan hummed the melody. The chapel was filled with golden moonlight and beautiful music. Sister Mary stood in the doorway, not knowing what to do. Finally, Sister Catherine noticed her and waved for her to come in. "Sister Mary, come and listen. Sister Margaret is sharing her gift with us." Sister Mary looked confused. "But I thought Mother Superior said—" "Mother Superior was wrong," Sister Joan said gently. "Sister Margaret's hands may look different now, but her music is more beautiful than ever." Sister Mary sat down and listened. Soon she was crying tears of joy. The music touched her heart in a way that nothing had for a very long time. Within a month, 6 nuns were meeting in the chapel every night at midnight. Besides Sister Margaret, Sister Catherine, Sister Joan, and Sister Mary, there was also Sister Elizabeth, age 32, and Sister Rose, age 40. They formed a secret circle of women who understood that some rules are less important than beauty and joy. Each night they would take turns keeping watch in the hallway while Sister Margaret played. They would listen to her music, and sometimes hum along quietly. They shared a secret that made them feel close to each other and close to God. During the day, they had to act normal. They could not let Mother Superior or the other sisters know what they were doing. But sometimes they would catch each other's eyes during prayers and smile, remembering the beautiful music they had shared the night before. Sister Margaret was happier than she had been in months. Her secret audience of 5 friends made playing feel special again. She no longer felt like she was breaking rules. She felt like she was sharing God's gift with people who could appreciate it. The 6 women became like a family within the larger family of the convent. They looked out for each other during the day. They brought each other extra food at meals. They helped each other with their work. But most importantly, they kept each other's secret. They knew that their midnight concerts were something precious that needed to be protected. None of them wanted to lose the joy they had found in Sister Margaret's music. For 3 wonderful months, their secret was safe. Every night they gathered in the chapel to hear music that seemed to come straight from heaven. Every night they felt blessed to be part of something so beautiful. But secrets, especially wonderful secrets. For 3 beautiful months, the secret midnight concerts continued without discovery. 6 nuns gathered every night to listen to Sister Margaret's amazing music. They had become careful and organized. They took turns watching the hallways. They had signals to warn each other if someone was coming. They thought their secret was safe. But Mother Superior was not a foolish woman. She had been the leader of this convent for 5 years, and she noticed things that others might miss. She began to notice that some of the younger nuns seemed different. They smiled more during the day. They seemed to have more energy. They whispered together in small groups and stopped talking when she came near. Sister Catherine especially seemed changed. The young nun who used to seem restless and unhappy now appeared peaceful and content. She paid closer attention during prayers and seemed more focused on her daily work. Mother Superior also noticed that Sister Margaret looked healthier. The old nun's cheeks had more color. Her eyes seemed brighter. She sat up straighter in her wheelchair and no longer looked sad all the time. These changes might have made another person happy, but Mother Superior was suspicious. In her experience, when nuns started acting secretive, they were usually up to something they should not be doing. She began to pay more attention to the nighttime activities in the convent. She walked the halls after evening prayers, listening for any unusual sounds. She checked the dormitories to make sure all the sisters were in their beds. One night in January, Mother Superior was walking past the chapel when she heard something that made her stop. It was very faint, but it sounded like humming, multiple voices humming together. She moved closer to the chapel door and listened more carefully. Yes, there was definitely singing coming from inside, and underneath the voices, she could hear piano music. Mother Superior's face grew dark with anger. Someone was in the chapel after hours and someone was playing the piano. She had a strong suspicion about who that might be. Very quietly, she crept up to the chapel door and looked inside. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. There was Sister Margaret at the piano, her twisted hands moving across the keys. On the front pew sat 5 other nuns: Sister Catherine, Sister Joan, Sister Mary, Sister Elizabeth, and Sister Rose. They were humming along to a hymn that Sister Margaret was playing. Mother Superior watched for several minutes, her anger growing stronger with each note. Sister Margaret was directly disobeying her orders. Even worse, she had convinced 5 other nuns to help her break the rules. The music was beautiful, Mother Superior had to admit. Sister Margaret's playing was flawless, and the humming voices added a lovely harmony. But beauty did not excuse disobedience. Mother Superior stepped back from the door and returned to her room. She would not confront them tonight. Instead, she would plan exactly what to do about this situation. She spent the rest of the night thinking. Her first instinct was to punish all 6 women severely. They could be assigned extra cleaning duties. They could lose privileges. Sister Margaret could even be transferred to another convent. But Mother Superior was also a practical woman. She knew that the other nuns in the convent respected Sister Margaret. If she punished the old nun too harshly, it might cause problems with the entire community. She decided to handle this situation in a way that would teach everyone a lesson about the importance of obedience. The next morning, Mother Superior did not say anything about what she had seen. She acted normal during morning prayers and breakfast. The 6 conspirators had no idea they had been discovered. That afternoon, Mother Superior made an announcement during the daily community meeting. "Sisters," she said, standing at the front of the meeting room, "I have exciting news. Bishop Thomas will be visiting our convent next month. He wants to see how our community is doing and to hear about the good work we are doing here." All the nuns looked pleased. A visit from the bishop was always an honor. Mother Superior continued. "The bishop has requested that we prepare a musical program for his visit. He would like to hear some of our traditional hymns played on the piano." Sister Anne raised her hand. "I would be happy to prepare a program, Mother Superior." "Actually," Mother Superior said with a cold smile, "I have decided that Sister Margaret should play for the bishop." A shocked silence fell over the room. The nuns turned to look at Sister Margaret, who had gone very pale. "But Mother Superior," Sister Anne said, "I thought Sister Margaret was not supposed to play anymore because of her arthritis." "I have been thinking about that decision," Mother Superior replied. "Perhaps I was too hasty. If Sister Margaret feels that her hands are strong enough to play piano, then she should have the opportunity to prove it." Sister Margaret's hands were shaking. She knew that Mother Superior had discovered their secret. This was not really an opportunity. It was a trap. "Mother Superior," Sister Margaret said quietly, "I do not think I am ready to play for such an important visitor." "Nonsense," Mother Superior said. "You will have 3 weeks to prepare. That should be plenty of time, especially if you have been practicing recently." The emphasis she put on the word recently made it clear that she knew exactly what had been going on. Sister Catherine, Sister Joan, and the others exchanged worried glances. They could see that Mother Superior was angry, and they were afraid of what she might do. After the meeting, Mother Superior called Sister Margaret to her office. The old nun wheeled her chair into the small dark room and waited. "Sister Margaret," Mother Superior said, not asking her to sit down, "I know what you have been doing." Sister Margaret's heart sank. "Mother Superior, I can explain." "There is nothing to explain. You have been deliberately disobeying my direct orders. You have been playing piano in the chapel at night, and you have convinced 5 other sisters to help you. They were not doing anything wrong, they were just listening. They were participating in your disobedience. They were helping you break the rules of this convent. Mother Superior walked around her desk and stood in front of Sister Margaret. I am very disappointed in you. I made my decision about your piano playing for good reasons. Your hands are weak and unreliable. You are too old to perform at the level this convent requires. But Mother Superior, my playing has not gotten worse. If you heard it, you know that I can still. What I know, Mother Superior interrupted, is that you cannot be trusted to follow orders. What I know is that you have a prideful spirit that will not accept your limitations. Sister Margaret felt tears coming to her eyes, but she tried not to cry. Mother Superior continued, however, since you seem so confident in your abilities, I am giving you a chance to prove yourself. You will play for Bishop Thomas in 3 weeks. You will perform 3 hymns of his choosing. The entire community will be there, as well as visitors from town. Sister Margaret understood the threat behind these words. If she played well, Mother Superior would look foolish for having forbidden her to play. If she played badly, everyone would see that Mother Superior had been right all along. And if I refuse to play? Sister Margaret asked. Then you will be transferred to a convent in another state, where your attitude of disobedience cannot influence the other sisters here. Sister Margaret felt trapped. She loved this convent. She had spent most of her adult life here. The thought of leaving her friends and starting over somewhere else at age 78 terrified her. I will play for the bishop, she said quietly. Good. And Sister Margaret? There will be no more secret concerts in the chapel. If I discover that you or any of the other sisters are meeting at night, there will be severe consequences for everyone involved. Sister Margaret nodded and left the office. Her heart was heavy with worry and fear. That night she went to the chapel one last time. Sister Catherine and the others were waiting for her, looking anxious and scared. She knows, Sister Margaret told them. She saw us last night. What is she going to do? Sister Joan asked. She is making me play for the bishop in 3 weeks. If I do well, she will look bad. If I do badly, everyone will see that I should not have been playing. But you will do well, Sister Catherine said. Your music is beautiful. What if I get nervous? What if my hands shake? What if I make mistakes in front of all those people? The 6 women sat together in the dark chapel, not knowing what to say. Their wonderful secret was over. Their peaceful midnight concerts were finished, and Sister Margaret faced the most difficult performance of her life. We will pray for you, Sister Rose said finally. Every day until the bishop comes, we will pray that God will guide your hands. And Sister Margaret, Sister Elizabeth added, remember that your music comes from your heart. It comes from your love of God. The bishop and everyone else will hear that love no matter what happens. Sister Margaret looked at her 5 friends and felt grateful for their support. She would need all the prayers and encouragement she could get for the challenge that lay ahead. In 3 weeks, she would sit at the piano in front of the entire community. Her twisted, arthritic hands would be on display for everyone to see. She would either prove that Mother Superior was wrong about her abilities, or she would fail publicly and lose everything she cared about. But for tonight, she would play one last concert for her friends. Tomorrow, the real preparation would begin. The 3 weeks of preparation felt like the longest weeks of Sister Margaret's life. Every day she worried about the upcoming performance. Every night, she lay awake thinking about all the things that could go wrong. Mother Superior had told her she could practice on the chapel piano for 2 hours each afternoon. But practicing during the day felt different from her midnight concerts. The chapel was bright and busy. Other sisters walked by and watched her. She felt nervous and self-conscious. Her arthritis seemed worse during these practice sessions. The pain in her joints was stronger when she felt stressed. Sometimes her fingers would get stiff in the middle of a song, and she would have to stop and stretch them. Sister Catherine and her other friends tried to encourage her. They would sit in the chapel during her practice time and smile at her. They would tell her how beautiful her music sounded. But Sister Margaret could see the worry in their eyes too. What if I embarrass myself? she asked Sister Catherine one afternoon after a particularly difficult practice session. Her hands had cramped up during Amazing Grace, and she had to stop playing twice. "You will not embarrass yourself," Sister Catherine said firmly. "Your music is a gift from God. Trust in that gift. But what if my hands do not work properly? What if I forget the songs? Then you will do the best you can, and that will be enough." Sister Margaret was not so sure. She knew that Mother Superior was expecting her to fail. Every day, the older woman would walk past the chapel while Sister Margaret was practicing. She would look at the twisted hands on the keys with a disapproving expression, as if she was already planning what to say after Sister Margaret's public failure. 2 days before the bishop's visit, Sister Margaret received another challenge. Mother Superior came to her during practice and handed her a piece of paper. "These are the 3 hymns the bishop has requested for his visit," Mother Superior said. "I hope you are familiar with them." Sister Margaret looked at the paper and felt her heart sink. The first song was Holy, 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 which was familiar and not too difficult. The second was Great is Thy Faithfulness, which she had played many times. But the third song made her hands shake. It was How Great Thou Art, and the bishop had requested it to be played in a specific key, a key that required difficult finger stretches and complex chord progressions. It was one of the hardest arrangements she had ever seen. "Is there any chance the bishop would accept a simpler version of this song?" Sister Margaret asked. Mother Superior smiled coldly. The bishop specifically asked for this arrangement. He heard it played this way at another convent and loved it. "I am sure you can manage it since you have been so confident about your abilities." Sister Margaret knew this was another trap. Mother Superior had probably suggested this difficult arrangement to the bishop, hoping it would be too hard for Sister Margaret to play. That night, Sister Margaret stayed up late practicing the difficult song. Her friends sat with her in the chapel. Even though Mother Superior had forbidden their midnight meetings, they were all willing to risk punishment to support Sister Margaret in her time of need. "I do not think I can do it," Sister Margaret whispered, after trying the song for the 20th time. Her fingers kept missing the difficult stretches, and the complex chords sounded muddy and unclear. "You have 2 more days," Sister Joan said. "Do not give up yet. Maybe I should tell Mother Superior that I cannot play this song. Maybe I should just accept defeat." "No," Sister Catherine said firmly. "Remember what you told me the first night I found you here. You said that music is your way of talking to God. Do not let Mother Superior take that away from you." The night before the bishop's visit, Sister Margaret could not sleep at all. She lay in her bed listening to the other sisters breathing softly around her. Her hands ached from practicing and her heart was full of fear. What if she forgot the songs in the middle of playing? What if her arthritis made her fingers freeze up? What if she embarrassed herself in front of the bishop and all the visitors? But, somewhere deep inside her heart, she remembered the joy she felt during her midnight concerts. She remembered how her hands felt young again when she played. She remembered the beautiful music that had poured out of her fingers for 3 magical months. Maybe, just maybe, that music was still there waiting for her. The morning of the bishop's visit arrived gray and rainy. Sister Margaret woke up feeling sick to her stomach. She could barely eat breakfast and her hands shook when she tried to drink her coffee. At 10 o'clock, the visitors began to arrive. Bishop Thomas came first in his official black car. He was a tall, kind-looking man with gray hair and gentle eyes. Behind him came several other priests and church officials. People from town also came to see the bishop and hear the special music program. The chapel filled up with more people than Sister Margaret had ever seen there before. Mother Superior greeted everyone and gave a speech about the convent and its history. Then she announced that Sister Margaret would play 3 hymns in honor of the bishop's visit. Sister Margaret rolled her wheelchair to the piano bench. The chapel was completely quiet. Everyone was watching her. The bishop, the priests, the visitors, and all her sister nuns. She looked down at her twisted, arthritic hands. They looked so old and damaged. She looked at the piano keys, which seemed to be waiting for her touch. Then she looked up and saw Sister Catherine sitting in the front row. Her young friend was smiling at her with love and encouragement. Behind Sister Catherine, she could see Sister Joan, Sister Mary, Sister Elizabeth, and Sister Rose. All of them were nodding at her, telling her without words that they believed. And her Sister Margaret took a deep breath and placed her hands on the keys. She began with Holy, Holy, Holy. The first few notes were soft and careful, but as the song continued, something magical happened. Her hands began to feel warm and strong. The arthritis pain disappeared. Her fingers found the keys with perfect accuracy. The music that came from the old piano was extraordinary. Each note was crystal clear. Each chord was perfectly balanced. Sister Margaret played with a depth of feeling that made everyone in the chapel sit up and pay attention. When she finished the first hymn, there was a moment of amazed silence. Then Bishop Thomas began to smile. He nodded at Sister Margaret with approval and respect. The second song, Great is Thy Faithfulness, was even better. Sister Margaret's confidence was growing with each note. Her hands moved across the keys like they were dancing. The music filled every corner of the chapel with beauty and joy. By now, many people in the audience had tears in their eyes. They were witnessing something special, not just good piano playing, but music that seemed to come straight from heaven. Then came the moment Sister Margaret had been dreading. The third song, How Great Thou Art, in the difficult arrangement that had given her so much trouble during practice. She paused for a moment and looked at her hands again. Then she closed her eyes and began to play. What happened next was beyond anything Sister Margaret had ever experienced in 60 years of playing piano. Her twisted fingers moved with the grace and skill of a master pianist. The difficult chord progressions flowed effortlessly from her hands. The complex melody soared above the harmony like a bird in flight. She was no longer just playing notes on a page. She was pouring her entire life into the music, all her years of faith, all her love for God, all her joy in making beautiful sounds. The arthritis that had been her enemy became irrelevant. Age became meaningless. Physical limitations disappeared. The music grew stronger and more powerful as the song continued. Sister Margaret's playing reached heights she had never achieved before, not even in her youth when her hands were straight and strong. When she played the final chord, the entire chapel erupted in spontaneous applause. People were standing up, clapping and wiping tears from their eyes. Bishop Thomas was clapping the hardest of all. Sister Margaret sat at the piano bench, hardly believing what had just happened. Her hands were still tingling with the energy of the music she had just created. Bishop Thomas walked over to her, his face glowing with amazement. "Sister Margaret," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "that was one of the most beautiful piano performances I have ever heard in my life. Your playing is truly a gift from God." He turned to face the entire congregation. "This is what music in the church should sound like. This is music that lifts the soul and brings us closer to heaven." Mother Superior stood at the side of the chapel, her face pale with shock. She had expected Sister Margaret to fail publicly. Instead, the old nun had just delivered a performance that everyone would remember for the rest of their lives. After the service, people crowded around Sister Margaret to thank her and congratulate her. Many of them asked if they could come back to hear her play again. Bishop Thomas spoke privately with Mother Superior before he left. "That sister of yours is a treasure," he told her. "You must make sure she has every opportunity to share her gift. Music like that should never be hidden away." That night, after all the visitors had gone home, Sister Catherine found Sister Margaret sitting alone in the chapel. The old nun was looking at her hands with wonder. "How do you feel?" Sister Catherine asked. "I feel like I just discovered who I really am," Sister Margaret replied. Sister Margaret had no idea that her life was about to change forever. On the day of the bishop's visit, she had been focused only on playing her 3 hymns without making mistakes. She never noticed the young man sitting in the back row of the chapel with his phone in his hand. The young man was David Martinez, the grandson of Mrs. Rosa Martinez, who had been coming to the convent for prayers every Sunday for 20 years. David had driven his grandmother to the special service, planning to wait in the car, but when he heard the music coming from the chapel, he decided to listen from the back row. David was a music student at the local university. He had been studying piano for 15 years and thought he knew what good piano playing sounded like. But when Sister Margaret began to play How Great Thou Art, David realized he was hearing something extraordinary. Without really thinking about what he was doing, David took out his phone and started recording. The music was so beautiful that he wanted to capture it somehow. He held his phone low so no one would notice, and he recorded the entire third song. When Sister Margaret finished playing, David was amazed, like everyone else. He put his phone away and forgot about the recording for the rest of the day. That evening, David was at home studying when he remembered the video on his phone. He decided to watch it again to relive the incredible performance he had witnessed. As he listened to the recording, David realized that the phone had captured Sister Margaret's playing perfectly. The sound quality was surprisingly good, and the music was just as moving as it had been in person. David showed the video to his roommate Jake, who was also a music student. "Dude, this is incredible," Jake said after listening to the whole song. "Who is this woman? She plays like a professional concert pianist." "She is just a nun at the local convent," David replied. "But get this. She is probably in her 70s and her hands are all twisted from arthritis. You should have seen her fingers. They looked like they could barely hold a cup of tea. But somehow, they made this amazing music." Jake listened to the recording again. "This is unreal. The emotion, the technique, the way she handles those difficult passages. This is conservatory level playing. Maybe better than conservatory level. I know, right? I have never heard anything like it." Jake had an idea. "You should post this online. People need to hear this music." David was not sure. "I do not know if that is right. I recorded it without asking permission. But look, you recorded it during a public church service. It is not like you were spying on her. And music this good should not be hidden away." David thought about it for a day. Then he decided Jake was right. He uploaded the video to YouTube with the title "Elderly Nun with Arthritis Plays How Great Thou Art." Absolutely incredible. In the description he wrote, "This amazing woman is Sister Margaret from St. Mary's Convent. Despite having severe arthritis in her hands, she delivered one of the most beautiful piano performances I have ever heard. Her music touched everyone in that chapel today." David posted the video on a Tuesday evening. By Wednesday morning it had been viewed 1,000 times. By Wednesday evening it had 10,000 views. By Thursday, it had 100,000 views. The video was being shared on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. People were commenting from all over the world. This brought tears to my eyes. What a gift this woman has. I am a professional pianist, and I can barely play this piece as beautifully as she does. This proves that true music comes from the soul, not from perfect technique. I have listened to this 20 times already. It gets better every time. By the weekend, the video had over 1 million views. News websites started writing articles about the piano nun and her incredible performance. Local television stations called the convent asking for interviews. Sister Margaret knew nothing about any of this. The convent did not have computers or internet access. The sisters lived a simple life focused on prayer and service, not on social media and viral videos. The first sign that something unusual was happening came on Sunday morning. During the regular church service that was open to the public twice, as many people showed up as usual. The chapel was packed and people were standing in the back. After the service, many people approached Sister Margaret to thank her for her music and to ask if she would play more songs. She was confused by all the attention but happy that her music had touched so many people. On Monday, things got even stranger. A reporter from the local newspaper came to interview Sister Margaret. Then a crew from the local television station arrived. Mother Superior was not pleased with all this attention. She tried to turn the reporters away, but they were persistent. Finally, Bishop Thomas called her personally. "Mother Superior," the bishop said, "I have been hearing about Sister Margaret's music from people all over the country. Apparently, there is a video of her playing that has become very popular on the internet." "A video? I do not understand." Bishop Thomas explained about YouTube and viral videos and how Sister Margaret's performance had been seen by millions of people around the world. The point is, the bishop continued, this is a wonderful opportunity to share the joy and beauty of our faith with people everywhere. Sister Margaret's gift should be celebrated, not hidden. Mother Superior felt like the world had turned upside down. 3 months ago, she had forbidden Sister Margaret to play piano at all. Now the bishop was telling her that Sister Margaret was famous around the world. Meanwhile, Sister Margaret's email inbox, which she did not know she had, was filling up, with messages from music teachers, concert halls, and recording companies. Carnegie Hall in New York sent an invitation for her to perform. The Sydney Opera House in Australia asked if she would consider a concert tour. Classical music radio stations started playing the recording of How Great Thou Art. Music critics wrote articles calling it a transcendent performance and proof that real artistry knows no age limit. A famous pianist named Vladimir Petrov, who had performed with orchestras around the world, wrote on his blog, "In 40 years of professional music making, I have rarely heard such pure emotion expressed through piano. This nun, whose name I do not even know, has reminded me why I fell in love with music in the first place." 3 weeks after David posted the video, a reporter from 60 Minutes called the convent. She wanted to do a feature story about Sister Margaret for national television. By this time, Mother Superior realized that she could not stop what was happening. The attention was too big, and too many important people were interested in Sister Margaret's story. She called Sister Margaret to her office and tried to explain about the internet and YouTube and how her music had become famous around the world. Sister Margaret listened with amazement. "You mean people in other countries have heard me play piano?" "Yes. Millions of people. They are calling you the piano nun and saying that your music is inspiring them." Sister Margaret was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Mother Superior, does this mean I can keep playing piano here at the convent?" Mother Superior sighed. "Yes, Sister Margaret. You can play piano whenever you want. In fact, I think we should have regular concerts here for people who want to come and listen." The 60 Minutes interview aired on a Sunday evening in March. Sister Margaret, sitting in her wheelchair beside the chapel piano, told her story simply and humbly. She talked about her love of music, her years of playing for the sisters, the difficult months when she was forbidden to play, and the joy she felt when she was allowed to make music again. When the interviewer asked her about her arthritis, Sister Margaret looked at her twisted hands and said, "These hands may not look like much, but when I place them on the piano keys, they remember what they were made to do. Music is not about having perfect hands. Music is about having something in your heart that needs to be shared." The interviewer asked her to play something, and Sister Margaret chose a simple hymn called "Be Still My Soul." As she played the EDU, cameras captured the concentration on her face and the graceful movement of her bent fingers across the keys. The program ended with Sister Margaret's words, "I think God gave me arthritis to teach me something important. When my hands became twisted and painful, I thought my gift was gone. But then I learned that real gifts come from somewhere deeper than our bodies. They come from our souls, and nothing can twist or damage the soul." After the 60 Minutes program aired, Sister Margaret's story spread even further around the world. Musicians everywhere began talking about the importance of playing with feeling instead of just technical perfection. Music schools started showing the video to their students as an example of how emotion can transform a performance. Churches began inviting Sister Margaret to play for special services, but Sister Margaret made a decision that surprised many people. When concert halls offered her large amounts of money to perform, she politely declined. When recording companies wanted to make albums of her music, she said, "No, thank you. My music belongs here," she told Sister Catherine. "It belongs in this chapel, with my sisters, serving God. I do not need to travel around the world to share my gift. People can come here if they want to hear it." And they did come. Every Sunday, the chapel filled with visitors from nearby towns and distant cities. People drove hundreds of miles to hear Sister Margaret play.